He smiled as the police opened the door. No blood. No smell. Nothing strange. Just a polite man in a tidy home, holding secrets that would terrify the world. Across the country, another man sat in a small prison cell, laughing as he described 41 murders in perfect detail. The victims were young. Some were children, dumped in trash bags, or buried in woods, or never found at all. 2 killers. Different lives. But the same chilling truth. This isn't fiction. It's real. This is not a movie. This is a true story. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story and watch to the end. Because the truth she uncovered will haunt you. March 17, 1977, Redondo Beach, California. It was a warm, golden afternoon. The kind of California day where the sun feels soft and the wind carries the smell of the sea. 17-year-old John Lamy stepped out of his house with a smile. He told a neighbor he was heading out to visit his friend Dave. He didn't seem worried. He didn't say goodbye like it was the last time. But it was. That was the last time anyone saw him alive. A hiker made a strange discovery. Black trash bags, torn open by animals. Inside were pieces of a body, cleanly cut, neatly packed. It looked like garbage, but it wasn't. It was John. His arms and legs were missing. His body had been dismembered. There were no fingerprints, no clues, no signs of a struggle. Just silence. Police had no leads, only one name. Dave. They followed it to a quiet home in Redondo Beach. A modest house. Clean lawn. White shutters. A man answered the door. Calm. Neat. Polite. His name wasn't Dave. It was Patrick Kearney. He was soft-spoken. No blood under his nails. No strange smell. No signs of panic. Just a quiet man with kind eyes. But behind those eyes was one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. East Texas, 1940s. Patrick Wayne Kearney was born in 1939 in East Texas. A place where people didn't talk about feelings. Where problems were buried like bones. He was sickly. Small. Weak. Bullied in school. Mocked for his voice. Ignored at home by a cold mother and a distant father. He didn't fight back. Instead, he disappeared inside his mind. At first, Patrick dreamed of payback. Bullies falling down. Getting embarrassed. But then the dreams changed. He imagined them dead. Still. Quiet. Gone. By the time he was 13, death wasn't just a thought, it was a comfort. He imagined their gasps. Their eyes. The peace that came after their final breath. At some point, Patrick's fantasies of death turned erotic. Power and pleasure became the same thing. Control became everything. But no one noticed. No one asked what the quiet boy in the back of the class was thinking. And Patrick learned something important. If you smile, if you stay neat, people won't look too closely. In his 20s, Patrick got married. It didn't last. Later, he joined the Air Force. There, he met David Hill. David was tall, handsome, and confident. Everything Patrick wasn't. They became partners. Moved to California. Lived together. Worked regular jobs. Patrick got a job at Hughes Aircraft, always on time, always polite. They were just another quiet couple in a quiet neighborhood. No one suspected a thing. It was a teenage boy. A hitchhiker. Patrick smiled as he picked him up. Made small talk. Seemed harmless. Then, while driving down a lonely road, he pulled out a .22 caliber pistol and shot him in the head. No struggle. No words. Just silence. He kept driving. The boy's body sat beside him, lifeless. Later, He pulled off the road, dragged the body into the canyon, sexually violated it, then cut it apart with precision. He buried some parts, left others for the desert animals. He cleaned up, went home, went to work the next day like nothing happened. That first kill didn't disturb him. It empowered him. From then on, Patrick couldn't stop. He cruised the highways at dawn and dusk, looking for boys and men who were alone, lost, drifting. He brought cleaning supplies, plastic bags, gloves, and always his pistol. After picking up a victim, sometimes just a teenager, he would shoot them in the head, quietly, calmly. Then he would defile their bodies, cut them into parts, seal them in trash bags, and leave them in the Mojave Desert or Angeles National Forest. These weren't wild or angry killings. They were methodical, clean, efficient. Patrick didn't kill for hate. He killed for control. Among his most chilling victims were children. 5-year-old Ronald Dean Smith had been playing with a toy truck outside his home in Lenox, California. Patrick smiled and lured him into his car. Ronald vanished. No screams. No sound. His tiny body was later found along a remote road. Smothered. Discarded. 8-year-old Merle Chance was walking home from the store. Patrick pulled up beside him, offered a ride. Merle got in. He was smothered too, then dumped deep in the forest. The site had been chosen carefully. The goal was always the same. Silence. At home, everything appeared normal. Dinners, laundry, routine. His partner, David Hill, claimed he didn't know. But detectives always wondered. How could he not know? The strange hours. The tension. The plastic in the car. The smell. Did David know and stay silent? Or was he just afraid to ask? When John Lamy casually said he was going to visit Dave, he didn't know it would be his last words. That simple name cracked open the case. Police traced it to Patrick's store. The stories didn't add up. The alibis were rehearsed. And then, Patrick and David vanished. Gone without a trace. They hitchhiked across state lines. Slept in motels. Lived like ghosts. But the pressure grew. The case hit the news. Families cried. The FBI got involved. Until finally, Patrick walked into a police station in Texas and confessed. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Patrick confesses he didn't cry, didn't fidget, didn't seem angry. Patrick Kearney sat calmly in the Texas police station. He spoke clearly, softly, and then he started naming them. One by one. 28 victims. Names. Dates. Ages. He remembered what they wore. How they looked. What their final words were. He described the weight of the trash bags. The sound of the desert wind. The silence in the car after he pulled the trigger. There was no emotion. Only clarity. It was like he was reading a grocery list. Cold. Precise. Efficient. To avoid the death penalty, Patrick made a deal. He would confess. All of it. In court, he pleaded guilty to 21 murders. The other victims, some could never be confirmed. Some were never even reported missing. He was sentenced to life in prison. No parole. No escape. Just time. He's still alive today. Locked away in Mule Creek State Prison in Ione, California. He doesn't speak. Doesn't write. Doesn't explain. He simply exists. An aging ghost behind thick concrete walls. Flash forward, 1980, Florida. Now, Imagine another man. Different city. Different style. But a heart just as cold. His name was Gerald Eugene Stano. And when he was finally caught, he did something police weren't expecting. He talked. At first, they thought it was a small case. An attempted murder. Maybe 1 or 2 assaults. But Gerald looked at the detectives. And said, "I've killed more than you think." Then he smiled. 5 murders. Then 10. Then 20. By the time the interview was over, Gerald had confessed to 41 murders. He gave names. Dates. Described the victims' faces. Told them where he left the bodies. What kind of socks one girl wore. What kind of earrings another had. He described bruising patterns. Body positions. Clothing colors. Her shirt wasn't blue, he corrected one officer. It was teal. No one had released that detail. Only the killer could have known. He didn't sound like someone reliving memories. He sounded like someone reading a diary. A diary he loved. He laughed sometimes. Smirked at other times. When police asked why he killed them, he shrugged. "I guess I wanted to," he said once. No remorse. No fear. Just the calm of a man who had accepted his darkness. He was born in 1951 in Florida. His birth name was Paul Zeininger. His mother abandoned him at birth. He was adopted by the Stano family. Given a new name. A new life. But something was already broken. Gerald struggled in school. Had trouble making friends. He lied. Stole. Failed to control his impulses. He wasn't just mischievous. He was violent. By his teens, he was already attacking girls. By his 20s, the murders had begun. Most of his victims were young women. Some were teenagers. Some were hitchhiking. Others were students walking home. A few were just girls at bus stops. He would offer them a ride. Smile. Act friendly. Then, a sudden attack. Some were strangled. Others stabbed. Some simply disappeared. He said he killed Donna Leach, Kathy Lee Scharf, Nancy Fox, and many more. Too many. Some families didn't even know their daughters were dead, until Gerald confessed. Gerald was charged with multiple murders. He received 10 life sentences and 1 death sentence. He tried to appeal. Then withdrew. Then appealed again. Nothing worked. The details were too accurate. The confessions too real. The families too devastated. This is not fiction. Every detail is from a real case. You can check every name. Every date. Every fact. This is a true story. In Florida State Prison, Gerald spent his days reading, writing, drawing. He gave a few interviews. Sometimes, he denied everything. Said his confessions were forced. But the details matched. Too many lives lost. Too many grieving families. One detective said. He had the eyes of a dead man. Blank. Hollow. Like the thing that made him human never existed at all. March 23, 1998. Florida State Prison. Gerald declined a final meal. No family came to see him. He didn't pray. At 7:13 p.m., the switch was pulled. His body jerked. Smoke roused. The smell filled the air. Seconds later, it was over. No applause. No tears. Just silence. And in that silence, the weight of the 41 women, maybe more, hung heavy in the room. And here's the chilling part. Some of Gerald's victims were never found. Some names were never known. They are still out there. Buried. Forgotten. Silent. This is not a movie. This is a true story. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story and watch to the end. Because the truth she uncovered will haunt you. Patrick Kearney and Gerald Stano never met. Different lives. Different states. Different styles. But the similarities were chilling. Both men were polite. Soft-spoken. Calm. They didn't look like monsters. And that's what made them so dangerous. Patrick was the clean-cut engineer. On time. Well-dressed. Private. He killed without rage. It was methodical. Controlled. Gerald was the good son. He had a stable job. Was adopted into a loving family. And yet, he killed girls as young as 14. Left their bodies in fields, woods, and canals. He smiled when he talked about it. Remembered little things, like the color of shoelaces. Just like Patrick remembered how heavy each trash bag was. These weren't impulsive crimes. Patrick prepared for every kill. Gloves. Trash bags. Bleach. Plastic in the car. Gerald did the same. He stalked his victims. Planned what to say. Where to dump the body. This wasn't madness. This was routine. Both killers knew something terrifying. If your victims are vulnerable. If you're polite. If you smile. You can vanish in plain sight. Runaways. Hitchhikers. Girls walking alone. Boys on the side of the highway. No one asked where they went. Not for days. Sometimes not at all. One detective described it best. They didn't kill for revenge. They killed because they wanted to. And because they knew they could. Patrick Kearney mostly targeted young hitchhikers. Runaway boys. Teenagers alone on the road. Even children, like 5-year-old Ronald Dean Smith. Gerald Stano preyed on teenage girls. College students. Women who trusted him. Many just looking for a ride home. Patrick didn't talk much. When he did, it was like reading a medical report. Cold. Clean. Like surgery. Gerald talked a lot. Sometimes cried. Sometimes joked. He enjoyed being the center of attention. Enjoyed the interviews. The drama. But both had one thing in common. They remembered everything. And yet, they felt nothing. Even with all their confessions, something felt off. Too many holes. Too many victims with no names. Too many families left with nothing. Patrick gave names. But police couldn't verify all of them. Some were never reported missing. Gerald confessed to 41 murders. But his details suggested maybe 50. Maybe 70. There were victims he hinted at. But never gave names. Girls who vanished. Bodies never found. Graves never dug. Some mothers still keep photos. Still leave lights on. Still think their daughter will walk through the door. They never got closure. Never got bodies to bury. Just a name in a police file. And a killer who died with secrets. This is not fiction. Every detail in this story is real. Every name, every location, every quote. These were real people. With families. With birthdays. With dreams. Taken by men who smiled while they did it. Some detectives believe Patrick killed many more. He traveled. He had time. He had the means. His calm memory scared investigators. If he said 28, they believed it could be double. And Gerald? His love of attention made it hard to tell. Was he bragging? Or was he finally telling the truth? One detective said. He knew too much. Too many things no one else could have known. I think there were more. And I think he liked knowing that we'll never find them. What would you do if you picked up a hitchhiker who never made it home? Would you remember their face? Would you call someone? Would you wonder? Because that's how it began for so many families. One small moment. One missed call. One smile. Too trusting. In an interview room in Florida. Gerald Stano leaned back. He looked at the wall of missing girls, smiled, and said, "Some of them you'll never find. Not even close. This is not a movie. This is a true story." Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story and watch to the end, because the truth she uncovered will haunt you. When news of Patrick Kearney's and Gerald Stano's crimes broke across America, people were horrified, not just by the number of victims, but by how ordinary the killers seemed. They weren't wild-eyed monsters. They were quiet, neat, smart, forgettable. They worked jobs, paid taxes, drove clean cars, and they killed dozens, maybe more, without being caught for years. Trash bag killer confesses to 28 murders. Stano: "I killed 41, and I don't know why." Families demand answers, but there are none. In Florida and California, parents locked their doors tighter. Mothers held daughters' hands longer. Teenagers stopped hitchhiking. And detectives scrambled to reopen cold cases from years ago. Some investigators believe Kearney started killing even earlier than he claimed. In his confessions, Patrick mentioned, "I practiced, you know. I tested things. I made mistakes." But what were those mistakes? Who were the first test victims? We may never know. With Stano, police were even more conflicted. Some detectives believed every word. Others thought he was lying, at least about some of it. He loved being needed, one cop said. Loved being the center of attention. But too many facts checked out. I think we'll never know the real number. Both men confessed to dozens of killings. But for dozens of families, there was no closure, no names, no remains, no justice. Just whispers of what might have happened. A teenage boy who vanished in '68. A young girl who disappeared walking home in '74. Did Patrick kill them? Did Gerald? Or are there still other monsters out there who never got caught? In his final years, Gerald Stano became odd. He would draw pictures of the girls he claimed to have killed. Stick figures with big smiles. He'd tape them to the walls of his cell. Sometimes, he claimed innocence. Other times, he laughed about the murders. He once asked a prison chaplain, "If I'm forgiven, do they all come back?" The chaplain didn't answer. Gerald just smiled. Meanwhile, Patrick Kearney refused all interviews, all letters, all requests. He sits in silence in Mule Creek State Prison. No statements. No remorse. No explanations. He confessed once. That was enough for him. Now, he doesn't say a word. One guard said, "He's like a machine. Eats, sleeps, reads. Never raises his voice. You'd never think he killed a fly. But he did. Dozens of them. And never blinked." This is not fiction. Every part of this story is real. There are case files, court transcripts, interviews, news reports, missing person flyers still up today. The people you're hearing about were real. And so were the people they killed. Some families of victims still hold hope. They don't believe their child is dead. They want to believe they'll walk back in one day. That the killer was someone else. Others just want a place to bury them. A mother of a missing girl said in a news clip, "I don't want him to rot. I want him to talk. Just tell me where she is." She never got her answer. That's the question people keep asking. Why? Not money. Not hate. Not even anger. Just control. Power. A twisted sense of calm. They didn't stop because they got caught. They stopped because someone noticed. Patrick Kearney and Gerald Stano didn't just kill. They took futures. Weddings. Birthdays. Siblings. graduations. They stole whole lives, and then slept peacefully the same night. That's the true horror. This is not a movie. This is a true story. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story and watch to the end. Because the truth she uncovered will haunt you. The walls were silent. The light was dim. Two different prisons. Two different monsters. Yet Patrick Kearney and Gerald Stano shared in one fate. No one came to say goodbye. Patrick never spoke again after his sentencing. He declined all interviews. Refused visitors. No statement. No apology. Not even a whisper. He walks the prison yard alone. Reads. Eats. Sleeps. And remembers. Gerald's final days were different. He stayed in his small cell in Florida State Prison. Doodling. Sometimes pacing. Often humming songs no one recognized. The guards say he looked peaceful. Almost relieved. When they asked if he had any final words. He didn't beg. Didn't cry. Instead, Gerald Stano said, "I forgive you for what you're about to do." At 7:13 p.m. on March 23, 1998. The switch was pulled. His body convulsed. Smoke rouse. And then, stillness. No one clapped. No one cheered. The families who came to witness his execution said it felt empty. Here's the most haunting truth. Both men took secrets to the grave. Patrick Kearney confessed to 28 murders, but the number could be higher. Gerald Stano confessed to 41 murders, but some detectives believe it could be over 80. They hinted at more. Smiled when asked. Said things like, "You're not even close." So, what about the missing girls? The boys whose bones were never found? Somewhere in the deserts of California, bones lie in shallow graves. Scattered across brush and sand. Somewhere along Florida highways, in drainage ditches, in wooded trails, there are stories never told. Crimes never solved. A tattered backpack found under a bridge. A shoe in a canal. A bracelet buried in dirt. We'll never know if those belong to Patrick's victims. Or Gerald's. Today, decades later, some cold case units still test remains. One teenage boy found in the Mojave in 1974, still has no name. One girl's partial remains found near Daytona Beach in 1980, still not identified. Patrick and Gerald may have known who they were. But they chose to die with that knowledge. One Florida detective said, "I stared into his eyes for hours. And there was nothing there. Like the lights were on. But no one had ever lived inside." A California officer remembered this about Patrick. He smiled when we walked him to the cell. Like he'd just dropped off groceries. It's easy to imagine killers as angry, violent, loud. But Patrick and Gerald? They were quiet, calm, normal. That's what made them so dangerous. They didn't need a reason. They didn't feel regret. They didn't stop. They were surrounded by people, yet no one saw them for what they were. Not until it was too late. Look around. Would you recognize a Patrick Kearney if he sat next to you? Would you feel uneasy around a Gerald Stano? Or would you trust the quiet man? The one who offers a ride. The one who smiles. The one who blends in. That's the chilling question. Because both killers looked just like anyone else. This is not fiction. Every detail in this story is from public records. You can verify it all. Victims had names, birthdays, dreams. And those dreams were taken. Patrick Kearney is alive. He's now in his 80s. He has never spoken again. He remains in Mule Creek State Prison, Ione, California. Serving life. Alone. A living ghost. Gerald Stano is gone. Dead by electric chair. Buried. No visitors. No funeral. What if there were more like them? Not discovered. Not stopped. Still out there. Still smiling. Because the scariest monsters are the ones that smile the most. This is not a movie. This is a true story. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story and watch to the end. Because the truth she uncovered will haunt you.